Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, the 17th of October 2017, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Brian Gerrish. With me in the studio, Mike Robinson. We're also joined today by David Ellis from Strategic Defence Initiatives. And Mike, I think this is one of the most important UK Column News episodes that we have done to date, because matters with regard to our constitution and the military, I think we're at the crisis point.
Well, as we suggested yesterday, it is a done deal. Here is Theresa May and Mr. Juncker. Well, there they go, walking out. Now, I don't know where his hand ended up. Maybe he's been taking lessons from Harvey Weinstein or something. I'm not sure. But the following joint statement was issued by Theresa May and by Juncker following their working dinner, as we mentioned yesterday. And they said the Prime Minister and the President of the European Commission had a broad constructive exchange on current European and global challenges. They discussed a common interest in preserving the Iran nuclear deal and work on strengthening the security of citizens in Europe, notably on the fight against terrorism. And they also prepared for the European Council, which will take place later in the week. Well, she also found time to, in her hectic schedule, to speak to the French President, Macron. They were speaking about the strong UK-France relationship. And of course, at the heart of that strong UK-France relationship is the bilateral defence agreement signed at Lancaster House. And they agreed to continue building on that partnership in a range of areas. And she also spoke to the Irish Taoiseach, Varadkar. So now let's keep in mind that everything that Theresa May has said since her recent, Lancaster House speech on Brexit was that she's not aiming for separation from the European Union, but a new partnership with the EU of greater depth and breadth than we've ever had before. And for those that didn't see yesterday's programme, this is what we're talking about, jump-starting a new era in defence. Now, at that meeting, Theresa May was meeting not just Jean-Claude Juncker, but also Mr. Barnier, who's the head of the Brexit negotiations for the European Commission. Mr. Barnier was responsible for this document, In Defence of Europe. The subhead, as they say, is Jump-starting a new era in defence. And if you remember, this is the quote. Europe needs to move from the current patchwork of bilateral and multilateral military cooperation to gradually increase defence integration. The permanent structured cooperation, PESCO, provided in the Lisbon Treaty, could become a game changer in European security by enabling willing members to move forward. And as we mentioned, this has been promoted and discussed, particularly by Mrs. Mogherini, the Foreign Affairs spokesperson for the European Union. Now, for anybody that hasn't seen our work on EU military unification on the UK Column website, please do go and have a look at it. There's a timeline describing what has happened from about 1984 forwards. We could have gone back further than that, but that seemed like a reasonable stepping off point. And all the main events over the years are there. Look at it, and most importantly, share it. Please share it among as many people as possible. Now, once we get to 2017, we start to see things moving a bit faster. The Council reviewing progress and agreeing to support military missions, combined military missions, and so on. But when we get to June, the European Council was calling for the launch of the permanent structured cooperation. And then this meeting, this European Council meeting that the statement from Theresa May mentioned is taking place on Thursday and Friday this week. And again, PESCO on the agenda. So here is the European Council meeting, 19th, 20th of October. And this is what they say. Heads of state or government will resume discussions on permanent structured cooperation on defence. At the June European Council, leaders agreed on the need to launch PESCO. And this is the draft agenda. And what amuses me about this, Brian, is there is the agenda item. So every other agenda item on here, which includes migration and digital Europe and external relations, all comes with a little bit of summary text to explain what it is. Defence, it just says PESCO. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no comment.
Yeah. And all of this happening Mike, whilst the public are simply told, oh, well, there's some difficulty in the Brexit negotiations. We're not really sure how it's going to pan out. It's all very, very difficult. That's what's pushed out to the public. Behind the scenes, they are simply working flat out for this massive military integration.
Well, I would go further. Everything that's in the press is just about generating as much noise as possible to keep journalists happy, keep them churning out rubbish while all this stuff's going on in the background. And look, one of the things that David Ellis has been saying from the beginning is that alongside defence union comes banking union, a treasury, and only a week or so ago, Juncker's European Commission released this release, which describes completing the banking union. And David, let's bring you in at this point. As I said yesterday, Brexit is being used to drive all this. It's really about a new relationship with, as Theresa May says, with greater breadth and depth than we've ever seen. Brexit isn't about taking us out of the European Union. It's about driving this other agenda.
Yeah, absolutely right, Mike. Thanks for bringing us on today, and I've got to say, great work for what you did yesterday. That's exactly the case. So this is the only deal in town. This is the main event, and all other things that are being sort of beaten around in the press are just a sideshow. This is being agreed. It's being agreed at full throttle by our government, and what Juncker and Barnier are clearly doing is dictating to Theresa May and the government as to what's going to happen. You will tie up this bilateral patchwork that's effectively now a stepping stone into full Schengen military free zone, military free movement of military in the Schengen zone. And that will go hand in glove with the money and the capital budgets, operational budgets. It'll go hand in glove with the treasury because they'll need a treasury to administer it. Once they've got a treasury, they will then tax. So we will submit our military into this for free and get a tax bill. We are not leaving the EU. We are now further into the EU, a reinvigorated EU, much as the Jacques Delors pitch to Maggie Thatcher at Fontainebleau in 1984. I've got an idea. Well, he hadn't. He was just doing as he was told. The idea was we want currency union, we want military union, and loss of your veto, please, Mrs. Thatcher. And she said, no, no, no. But we're now seeing it come round again. And May is actually doing it this time. She's doing it for real because they've all had the key meeting and it looks like they're all in favour of it. So this is the only deal in town. Brexit's a complete load of nonsense. And this is clearly definitive now. This is a permanent military structure that they will go forward from. So there's no challenging. There's nobody saying, whoa, stop, this isn't a good idea. Have you evaluated it? It's not gone through Parliament. There's been no scrutiny. There's been no debate. And more importantly, when is someone going to say something to the effect of, where's the royal assent for this? By what means do you, as First Lord of the Treasury, Mrs. May, submit our military without any mandate from the people, other than you could obviously, they're going to say, well, we signed Lisbon, so we're committed to that, so it's okay. That's my get out of jail free card, thank you. But they're going to do this. There's no mandate for it. It's never been anybody's election campaign, ever.
David, sorry to interject, David, this is an absolutely key point. No debate in Westminster about these decisions at all, pre-debate. Absolutely nothing. We've now got a cabal of people. My mind is drawn back to the Queen being in Parliament without her crown. And at the time, Mike in particular said this is very significant. The Queen was there in her blue EU hat, inverted commas. We said this is an unconstitutional parliament. We have now simply got a cabal of Conservative MPs making decisions about anything they like, constitutional issues, defence. This is a criminal cabal now running Britain. And somebody has just said in our chat box, what this actually means is we're a whisker away from the fact that foreign troops can simply be brought in on British soil as part of this new so-called agreement. This is immensely dangerous stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody's going on about, sort of immigration and whatnot. And I've already articulated, that that's not the issue here of people coming to this country. The issues were far greater than that. But a lot of people have used it as political whipping to get votes and so forth. But that being so, imagine what you are going to say and what you are going to find when foreign troops have free reign in this country, that are in this military union, permanent military union system, PESCO, that they're talking about here. You could have a conglomerate, because I was asked the other week by ex-senior officers saying, well, how do you envisage this working? I said, well, what they'll do is they'll put 25 Royal Marines in a group with 25 Dutch and 25 German and 25 French, and they'll all have to get along, and pretty soon they'll all be in the same uniform. The national uniforms will go at a threshold point, and the orders will come from Brussels. Right, you lot go there. Who will say no? Who in charge of those 100 EU mixed military troops once they've been stitched together in this patchwork? Because that's what's going to happen. Which officer in there, which captain is going to say no? I'm not doing that. I'm not going there, and I'm not doing what you're ordering me to do. Because this is going to be the watershed problem. If people are prevaricating about a lot of people coming in as economic or social migrants into this country, imagine what you're going to have when you have foreign troops in an amalgamated EU military union force, and foreign aircraft and foreign tanks coming and going as they please, with free movement, as the free movement of like we've had with free movement of trade, free movement of people, free movement of money. We're going to have free movement of military now. So this is it. This is the margin call. So Barnier is a co-author of this. He's a co-EU author stroke agent. But this language I've seen before in the research that we've done. This is the language that was used in the BIS during World War II. We're going to kickstart the American economy with lease lend, and that was a Thomas McKittrick concept and policy that was then pushed through. It wasn't Churchill's at all. It was nothing to do with the American government. It was derived from the BIS. And this is the same language. We're going to kickstart the EU with this, and they're going to kickstart it with a load of money, because as we know, that NATO doesn't have a bank, but the EU has a bank, and it's going to finance this very, very quickly. There's going to be a load of accounts created in order to manage it within their treasury and within their bank, and they're going to quantitative ease a vast amount of money in order to make this happen. They have to, because if they don't, the euro will fail. If they don't get their military union, the euro will default. That's the danger.
Well,
so this is the underpinning mechanism for them to precipitate the euro. But where are our politicians? Absolutely silent.
Well, David, let me just bring in the quote from this press release from the European Commission, as indicated by President Juncker in his State of the Union address on the 13th of September 2017. The banking union must be completed if it's to deliver its full potential as part of a strong economic and monetary union and complementary to the capital markets union. It couldn't be clearer that what we're moving towards is full federal union within the European Union, including, as you have said from the beginning, military union, banking union, and a foreign policy.
Yeah, it all goes hand in glove. It all has to close loop in order for the money to flow around and for them to set a single point budget. So if there was anything that everyone, let's say on our side of the fence, if you're listening to this, if you're a non-believer in this and you're a Brexiteer, this is the one and only thing that we all need to focus on now in order to get this stopped. If we don't stop this, there is absolutely no hope of doing anything sensible in this Brexit period that we're in. And clearly, Mrs. May, and I was warned of this, quite some time ago, her tactic was to offer the military in order to get the trade deal. Now, you can evaluate yourself what you feel about that, whether you think it's a good, bad, or you're indifferent to it. But nonetheless, my opinion is she's being absolutely duped. She's either duped or she's inept. She can't have both. But by any stretch of the imagination, we've not seen anything like this in this country. We're effectively going to roll the clock back to something around sort of 2,000 years ago, where we were under the Roman Empire, where they had common military across the zone and a common treasury as well under Caesar Augustus and Mark Antony. It's exactly the same model.
Okay.
I've just got to ask my normal question. You're out and about, you're meeting and able to talk with a lot of senior people, some politicians, some retired senior officers. I watch that field with fascination as there is total silence. It seems to me many of these people, they are rabbits in the headlights now, or they can't grasp the seriousness of what's happening. Are you seeing any glimmer of awakening amongst the senior retired military officers?
Brian, Mike, all the UK viewers, I would love to answer that as yes, but no. No, I don't. I don't see enough of an awakening. I don't see enough of really attaching the right amount of regard to this because of just how important it is. Without a military, we're not a nation, and we're certainly not a nation without any kind of autonomy over our industry where we can make things and sell and get on so we can all have nice lives. So, this is really the key thing here to what's happening to this country right here and now.